2 Timothy chapter 3. We've been crawling through verses 10 and 11. You, however, know all about my teaching, my way of life, my purpose, faith, patience, love, endurance, persecutions, sufferings, what kind of things happened to me in Antioch, Iconium, Lystra, the persecutions I endured. Yet the Lord rescued me from all of them. Now, Paul, here he gave just a very kind of sketchy list of, well, it's not too sketchy, but he gave a more substantive, a list of more substance in, this is in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, and he's defending his ministry. And verse 23, in reference to the people who are critical of him, who weren't just critical, they stood in opposition to him. He says, are they servants of Christ? I'm out of my mind to talk like this. I am more. I have worked much harder, been in prison more frequently, been flogged more severely, have been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. By the way, I'll pause there and say 39 lashes was the traditional maximum whipping punishment, because at 40, most people died. So that whipping, lashings, were not capital punishment, but they were just one stroke away. Anyway, 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I have been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false believers. I have labored and toiled and have often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst and have often gone without food. I've been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches. Let me just say, Paul knew about suffering and persecution. And I say this all the time, you know it, there's a big difference between actual persecution and inconvenience. These things were certainly inconvenient to Paul. I don't think I would ever schedule on my calendar a lashing 39 lashes or 3 times beaten with rods. These were things that probably, I think more than possibly, probably would have left Paul crippled in some ways. You don't get those kinds of whippings, beatings with rods, being pelted with stones, and one of those occasions he was stoned and left for dead. Gosh, the Lord rescued me from them all, he says. Well, not until he was done. It's not like God saw this coming and rescued him out of it. Talked about this last time, but we in America, and I'm guilty of this as well. And you know what? I confess my guilt. We want to be rescued out of the suffering. Paul he doesn't say that. Yet, the Lord rescued me from all of them. Ooh. Well, they all took place. They all seemed to run their course. And then in verse 12, as though he were, you could almost put in parentheses, hey, my life is kind of a testimony of how life works. And in verse 12 he says, in fact, everyone who wants to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. No, wait. That I'm not interested in that. I didn't sign up to be persecuted. I signed up to have a nice life and know I'm going to go to heaven when I die. That's what I signed up for. Well, no, not really. You probably didn't know it, but when you signed up, well, here's what happened. When you signed up, you signed a contract with God that essentially signed over the deed of your life, all of it. This was a quit-claim deed. It went to God. Your life's not your own anymore. My life is not my own. There are people who live their entire life fully in love with Jesus, following his design as best they know how, who seem to just float through, but they only seem to. Everyone who calls on Jesus, everyone who wants to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. Don't that kind of need to leave that out, right? It just does not compute. Not in our culture. You attract more bees with honey than vinegar. Well, no, actually it's not bees, it's flies, isn't it? Well, okay. Everyone who wants to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. And then he goes on to say, while evildoers and impostors will go from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. I want to go back to the idea that everyone who intends to live a godly life in Christ Jesus is going to experience persecution. You don't have to go looking for it. It will find you. But I know this. There are a couple of reasons why people experience persecution. And oh, by the way, there is this aspect of persecution that has to do with the fact that we have our own perspective on what persecution is and the degree and intensity of persecution. And there's everything from, like I said, inconvenience, which is truly not persecution, all the way to being murdered because of your faith. You don't have to go looking for that. You don't have to go do things that put you in harm's way. Although I gotta say, there are men and women, and have been since Jesus' day, who have put themselves in harm's way. Paul did. I think it's safe to say Paul probably could have avoided all those things that I read about in 2 Corinthians. He could have sidestepped at least most of that. But he was willing to put himself in harm's way for the sake of the gospel. I think you and I will experience persecution. It will find us. And there's another reason why I said there's two things about persecution, two reasons why persecution comes. One is because we have an enemy who doesn't want to make us uncomfortable. He wants to take us out. Peter wrote, your enemy, the devil, is like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. Jesus said of the devil, he's the thief, and the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. Those are not soft ideas. Okay? We have an enemy, and he will do anything God permits in his endeavor to take you and me out. Here's a second reason we sometimes encounter persecution. And I don't believe this is why Paul encountered persecution, but it can happen. It's because we make stupid choices. We say and do things that we didn't think through, and consequences of those choices will often feel like persecution, even if they aren't really. I want to do what I can to face persecution head on in faith, in the power of Christ by his Spirit. And I want to do whatever I can to keep from making those stupid decisions that bring consequences that probably will feel like persecution. Then he says, evildoers and impostors will go from bad to worse. Now, we're going to experience persecution, but evildoers and impostors will go from bad to worse. Deceiving and being deceived. You see, the kind of evil Paul's talking about here is its primary tool is deception. To me, it's very interesting that Paul writes the evildoers and impostors will go from bad to worse. Deceiving, that is, well, you think about it. What is Satan's number one weapon? Has been since the Garden of Eden. Deception. One of the ways he deceived is by a bending of the truth. He tried it with Jesus as Jesus faced the temptations in the wilderness. Jesus it was, I sometimes see on Facebook a meme that says, "Not today, Satan." And I can say that, but Jesus actually executed on that. Not today, Satan. But the rest of us, we deal with the deception of Satan almost daily. Well, actually, I could probably say not almost, but daily. He throws out his deception, but I believe that in our culture today, he needs to be less nuanced, less cloaked, less concealed in his deception. I mean, it seems like we swallow and accept ridiculous deception. But not only do these imposters, these evil people and imposters deceive, but they are deceived. They go on deceiving and being deceived. Who deceives them? I know a couple of things. First of all, Satan continues to deceive. He doesn't back that down. He continues and hacks away and hacks away and hacks away with deceit. And I know this other thing. Others who are deceivers and manipulators, remember that's really one of the big characteristics of this group of people. These manipulators and deceivers, they deceive one another. Well, my time's up, so I'm going to close. We'll have to come back a little bit to this next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.